right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lincoln County Courthouse. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our newest commissioner for the planning and zoning, Seth, down there at the end. Seth, if you want to tell everybody about yourself?
Just push the talk or? Seth Moser. I live over by Lake Elvin. I'll say a prayer for my wife tonight. She's home with our 4 kids, 6, 4, 2, and 3 months. So, I think, we all sacrifice some to be on this board, so. I'm happy to be here, happy to represent District 1, and so, thank you.
Great, thank you, Seth. I'll say it a little bit later, but if your wife and the kids want to watch, we're being streamed live right now.
There you go.
All right, this meeting of the Lincoln County Planning Commission will begin with a few introductory remarks. This meeting is being streamed live, and when adjourned and posted, it will be available at any time at lincolncountysd.gov. The order of events tonight will be as follows. For each public hearing, staff will introduce the agenda item and present a summary of the staff findings. The applicant will then be asked to explain their proposal in further detail and to answer any questions from the County Planning Commission. I will then open the floor to public comment, first for persons in support of the application and then persons in opposition of the application. When you step up to the podium, please state your name, address, and speak clearly into the microphone. Please limit your comments to less than 5 minutes. Lastly, decisions on change of zones will be scheduled for additional public hearing during an upcoming Board of Commissioners meeting. The decisions on conditional use permit applications may be appealed to the Board of Commissioners by submitting a letter to the County Planning and Zoning Office within 5 business days. Thank you for your cooperation. All right, first order of business, we do have a quorum tonight, so we are good to go there. Now we'll look at the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections, Mr. Brown?
No corrections, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. With that, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved, DeRusso.
Second, Sweeter.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. We'll next approve the meeting agenda. Are there any changes to the meeting agenda, Mr. Brown?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second, DeRusso.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right. Now, we get to do public input on non-agenda items. So does anybody in the audience want to share anything with us that's not on the agenda? Please feel free to come up. Hello.
Good evening, Jared Stearns, 47374 288th Street in Beersford. I really appreciate the work that the commission has done over the past couple of meetings looking at ordinances and improvements we can make there. One addition I would like to make for next month in that meeting, excuse me, is on section 154.250 on CAFOs, specifically around the setbacks away from Class A facilities. So as the ordinance sits today, any facility with 2,000 animal units or more has a designated minimum setback of 3/4 of a mile. It doesn't matter if it's 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 head, then it still has that same 3,960 foot setback. And while I fully understand the need for the county to grow, I don't think having a facility that large with that small of a setback is good for the county, its residents, or the future for the county as a whole. Looking at neighboring counties, some of the neighboring counties have adopted more responsive approaches. Both Union and Turner include provisions that increase setback distances as a facility grows. That's built in automatically within their ordinance. In addition, Clay County has a cap based off of the number of animal units to help kind of prevent this issue that Lincoln County has today. So to bring our ordinance more in line with these practices, I propose adding language to section 154.250 paragraph F that increases the setback by 100 feet for every additional 500 animal units beyond the initial 2,000. So basically for a 5,000 animal unit facility, it would increase the setback by about 600 feet. This would closely align with how Union County has it set up today. So in conclusion, revisiting this section of the ordinance presents an opportunity to strike a better balance between supporting growth and protecting the quality of life for county residents. A scalable setback requirement would provide a fair, predictable framework for producers and protect the county while also addressing legitimate concerns about proximity and impact. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment on non-agenda items? All right, seeing none, I'll close the floor. And we will go to our first item, a conditional use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Toby Brown, representing County Planning and Zoning Department. This first item before you this evening is a public hearing for a conditional use permit. This is requesting a public utility facility. So subject property is within, as you can see, within the vicinity map, is in the A1 agricultural area. Subject property, again, is zoned A1 agriculture. It does have an existing Class A CAFO on the property. The applicant is requesting essentially or has obtained an easement on the property for the public utility facility. Here's some shots where it'd be looking directly to the east would be the one there. This is the site plan that was submitted with the application. So the applicant has requested that that Northwestern Energy has secured an easement on the property, approximately 1.85 acres in size. This is the final piece of the puzzle. In 2023, the county approved a digester that is not exactly on this easement, was adjacent to it. So what this is Northwestern is requesting conditional use permit for a gas receiving station, essentially, or terminal is what it is. So that'll allow the methane digested, converted into natural gas to be then transported down their line system. The line system is not a part of this application. What this application is essentially looking at the easement that's on the property and the proposed facility that's on the property. So within Lincoln County zoning ordinance, we have two types of what I would call facilities, public facilities. A natural or a neighborhood utility facility is allowed for most of our pipelines and most of our facilities, gas receiving stations and those different types of things. If any building on the property or associated with is over 120 square feet in size, does then require a conditional use permit. It bumps it up to a public utility facility. So those are two land uses. They don't really relate to if it's a per se public utility facility. It's really the two types of land uses that we've defined for these types of facilities. So the applicant is proposing it'll be a 203 square foot building on the property, which does exceed the 120 square foot, which does then require a conditional use permit for it. Again, this is the final piece of the puzzle for the digester that was previously approved on the subject property, but outside of this easement. So we did post property. Applicant did send notification out to the neighbors. We haven't heard really any comments associated with it. Did receive a call from the township today. They had concerns with the overall pipeline. I said that's really not part of this application, whether that pipeline is in the right-of-way or if it's in private property. This application, again, is for what's in the easement, which would be that gas receiving station. And so with that, glad to answer any questions that the board has for staff at this time, but their project representative is in attendance this evening to answer any detailed questions that you might have about the project.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, are there any facilities like this currently in Lincoln County?
Yes.
Where at, just so I can kind of reference?
It'd be Milk and Honey Holdings, it'd be the west and the east side dairies down there.
Okay.
It'd be in between those two. When we did approve this facility for that, it was not on the site, it was further down. I don't exactly remember how many feet or miles it was down, but it wasn't really adjacent to the site at that time. So this receiving station is on the property.
Okay.
I should say too, is that within the staff report, staff did analyze and recommend approval with the 6 conditions that were listed in the staff report.
Commissioners, any additional questions for staff?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I will ask the applicant come forward and talk about their proposal.
Landon Schulte, Northwestern Energy. So basically what we are proposing,
Excuse me, Lan, can I get your address for the record so it's all there?
6520 South Beale Avenue, Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Thank you, Landon.
What we are proposing is just a renewable natural gas receipt station to go along with the biodigester that is already approved and being built on site. Essentially, this receipt station will then be run into a pipeline that will then run into our existing Sioux River ethanol pipeline. All we are requesting at this time is the the receipt site.
Okay. Commissioners, any question for Landon? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Brown made it clear you have two that all we're talking about tonight is the facility. And you've both referenced that we're not talking about the future infrastructure that goes with it, so I'm assuming that that's coming next. Is there going to have to be additional infrastructure on top of this?
The additional infrastructure would just be the pipeline that would run to the Sioux River ethanol tie-in.
So that's roughly how far you have to go is from here to there?
Yeah, approximately 2 miles of pipeline.
Okay.
With
Thanks.
to go along with that, about 1/2 mile of that will be in easement on this property.
Commissioners, additional questions for the applicant? Thank you, Landon.
Thank you.
All right, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application, please come forward. All right, anybody in opposition of the application, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask for a motion from the commission.
Move to approve, DeRusso.
All right, do we have a second for discussion?
Second, Moser.
All right. Commissioners, discussion? All right, hearing none, you guys all good? All right, I'll do a roll call. That's, so it's to approve the conditional use permit with 6 recommendations.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I do have a little discussion, if that's all right.
Sure, yeah.
So, just so I'm clear how you guys understand this, so we're voting just for this facility tonight. I guess one of the things we didn't get is what that, like the size and scope and what that thing's gonna look like. And then I realize that we're not discussing it. But I'd kinda like to, in a way, see them both together a little bit, because we're gonna probably have to have another process that way too, so, I don't know what everybody else's thought is about what's to come after, you know? I guess I'm just trying to kinda get my head around that.
Sure. Can we, Mr. Brown, could you help answer that question? I believe it's in the, yeah, I'm not going to guess it. Toby's a
I thought
professional.
you'd take a stab at it.
Yeah, I've done that enough today already.
I guess I don't know what, so the second phase of this is really the pipeline, that's a permissive use, so there won't be any further applications that are coming before the board. So this is the only, because this building exceeds it by 100 and some square feet, it does require a conditional use permit.
How big, what's the size of the building, or what's that thing gonna look like?
It's, 203 square feet?
3 feet.
Just a cover for the existing gas pipes there. It just looks like a typical,
3
what I would call typical storage building, yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying then, Mr. Brown, is if this is approved, then there isn't a need for a conditional use permit on anything afterwards.
No, it's a permissive use. The rest of it's permissive, correct.
The pipeline itself, right?
But I shouldn't say, so from a zoning standpoint, it's running along township. I don't know what direction it's all run that part, but the township may require additional permits. I'm not aware of that, so.
But as far as we're now, as soon as this is voted on one way or another, then it'll be done with us on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, from a land use side, yep.
Mr. Chair, but do you see where I struggle with this just a little bit? Is, based on our decision tonight, we kick into motion actions to the township and adjoining landowners that currently don't have to deal with that. That's my, what are you guys' thoughts?
Go ahead.
My thought, I mean, it's, one is it's there, it's now become a renewable energy that they're putting in a pipe, basically. Where I live, they trench in front of my house now every day. And new pipeline and new power and new this, I mean, they're running a pipeline 2 miles to a primary pipe that's there. I don't know how big the pipe's gonna be, how much it can travel. I wouldn't imagine it's gonna be a 6-inch pipe maybe, 2-inch pipe. So just a standard service pipe, basically. I mean, it's not like they're running a trunk across the state like we've seen some other pipelines. The infrastructure's there, it's just a extension is my thought to what's already there, so.
And on my end, we're tasked with this conditional use permit, and that's where we end. Any additional discussion?
Has there been discussion with landowners and the township as far as where the pipeline goes?
Most of the discussion
Shane, we come up and talk to the microphone. Thank you. Or Landon, I apologize, called you
Nope,
Shane. My
you're
bad.
good, and I can explain more with more questions too. But I believe most of the discussion with the landowners has been between the digester company, which would be Novilla RNG, and then East River Genetic Services, explaining to them that there will be a pipeline that will come through at some point in time. That is, I have not had direct discussion with the landowners.
Thank you.
Any further
Thank you.
questions? All right, thank you.
Yep. Are you comfortable with your questions, Mr. Scott? You good? We're not rushing anything. If you have
No,
more, to
yeah.
talk more, we can.
I just don't think I'll get the answers that probably settle my mind, so I'm just trying to decide what to do, I guess.
You want to vote?
I mean, I understand I understand that that isn't, shouldn't be part of the, or isn't part of the application, but I sure think that our decision, does have something to do with the overall impact, and, yeah, and, yeah. I'm not sure. I might just abstain with not enough information, so.
All right, any other discussion? Everyone's all right, we'll do roll call. All right, let's start at the bottom this time. Monty?
Drusso, yes.
Commissioner Druso, yes. Commissioner Otten?
As the Lincoln County Commission representative, I will be abstaining, but I have no conflict of interest.
All right. Commissioner Sweeter?
Yes.
Commissioner Moser?
Yes.
And Commissioner Scott?
I'm just gonna abstain, Chair, because I don't feel right about either way.
Okay. And Commissioner Jung is also a yes. That passes. All right, next on the agenda. My paper's up here. All right, old business. Any old business, Mr. Brown?
None, Mr. Chair.
All right, new business. I think, yes, yep.
Okay, so the first item of new business, so if you're aware, since January, the Planning Commission's been discussing proposed amendments that we can initiate and send to the Board of Commissioners. So typically, the Board of Commissioners remands ordinance amendments to the board, but the board is initiating some of these changes. And this will be the third draft. I think we've looked at the second draft. If everything looks okay, we'll forward a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, and then they would remand it back to us. Then we'll do a formal public hearing on it. So then we publish notice, we take favor or opposition to the proposed ordinances. And so the first one would be the building eligibility transfer. I thought maybe what will be relevant to all three of these amendments is to talk a little bit about the jurisdiction of these amendments. So these proposed amendments would amend Chapter 154, which is the zoning ordinance for the unincorporated area. So if you reside within a municipality such as Beersford, Hudson, or those, or even Sioux Falls, these regulations do not apply to you. These regulations only apply to those individuals that are in the unincorporated area of the county. Each of those municipalities, there's 9 municipalities within the county. Each of those 9 municipalities have their own comprehensive plan, their own zoning regulations that govern or jurisdiction within the municipality. So again, all three of these amendments would amend Chapter 154. There is also a second zoning ordinance in the county in the unincorporated area, and that's the joint jurisdictional ordinance that the county has with the city of Sioux Falls. And that's from within the city limits of Sioux Falls, just outside of the city limits or the boundary of the city limits of Sioux Falls, down to County Highway 106. It used to be a little bit hard to explain exactly where that boundary was, but last year, the city and the county elected officials agreed to move that boundary up to 106. And so again, that's a separate zoning ordinance that we're not amending, so these regulations don't apply within the unincorporated area of those particular areas. So what this proposal would do is, as you're aware, is that in 1995, and there's really two types of, when people say there's growth, they're really referencing two things. It's really economic growth and population growth. In 1995, the county adopted density zoning or building eligibilities. And really, it's a form of population, controlling population growth. So it restricts the amount of residential development that we can have within the unincorporated area of the county. Cities don't do that, counties do that. That's a typical policy, planning policy of all counties in the state nationwide, is that They restrict it, not for the idea that we're restricting population, but for the idea that we're preserving agricultural lands for agricultural land uses, is really what the intent of it is. But again, it does have an impact on the overall population growth of the county. But in 1995, the county adopted what we call density zoning, which restricted residential development to 1 per quarter, so 1 per 40 acres. And knowing that since we had zoning in 1971 to 1995, there was quite a bit of parcels that were already subdivided or platted out that people either intended future residential development for. So the county also added a provision that we allow lots of record. So those parcels that were platted before 1995. And those people that were in the know at 1995 also were out and platted a bunch of property too. So that we ended up with a lot of platted acres that we called lots of record. So again, in order to get a building permit, which is a permissive use or which is a by right, through our department, you have to have a building eligibility, which is this, again, this idea that was placed on 40 acres and then also lots of record. Since 1995, you could move that building eligibility, but it had to be moved adjacent under the same ownership property. So typically, it was just, we didn't see too many land sales or building eligibility sales. It was more placement, and then they sold the property with the building eligibility. But over the years, we've really, there was a process where that you could plat out an acre, or you could do a quick claim deed on an acre, which is primarily the way most people do it nowadays. That allows then just really a quick transfer of property, but then they transfer it back. So that was what I'll say is the provision for the same ownership. And so how this really process came about is that staff and the planning commission really had a discussion about if there's a need for allowing a greater ability to transfer these eligibilities. We do, like I've said, that staff does get a lot of requests about that. If an individual wants to move back, whether it be a family member, grandparent, or whatever the family relation would be, it seems like an onerous process to go through to do the things that they need to do that. So as we've worked through this the last 3 months, the latest draft before you is what you'd settled on last month, which is essentially to change that we won't require same ownership for the eligibility transfers. And then there won't be any provision where you can add additional acres to that requirement, so it'd be 1 acre provisions on that. And then we've also added the receiving parcel shall consist of a buildable area. So as you know, that Lincoln County, we're blessed with a lot of water underground and above ground. And so there's a lot of times when the property just doesn't facilitate residential development on it because of floodplain. So we want to make sure that we're evaluating to make sure those sites are appropriate for the transfer of that and development of that eligibility. And then a condition that we always place on it is you sign a right to farm covenant, and that's a requirement of all single-family dwellings that are constructed in the unincorporated area. So this just codifies that or puts it in the ordinance as opposed to just we add it as a condition every time that we approve one of these. So that's really the change. So this change would apply to section 154.058Z, which is the A1 agricultural zoning district conditional use. And it also applies to 154.178, and that is the RC recreation conservation conditional use provision. So that's really a proposal. That was kind of the recommendation that you gave staff the last meeting, so we drafted it, have everyone take a look at it. As you're aware, this is not a public hearing, but the board is desirous of public input, so we don't take for and against. We're really just going to take any comments that we can. And then at such point in time, if the board is comfortable, then you would vote to make a recommendation of this to the Board of Commissioners. Okay? I'll turn it back to you. If there's any questions that the board has for staff, we'll gladly answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
I have one.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, sir.
Just a question, I guess. So, it's per 40 acres, right? So if you have 160 acres, would you have 4 building eligibilities unincorporated
Correct.
or like undivided?
Yep.
So if you're adjoining, if there's 40 acres next to it, can you only sell 1 eligibility to that 40 acres, or can you sell all 4?
All 4.
Okay. So then you have 4 on the 40.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually 5, because there's already.
Oh, is there, yeah, that'd be 5 then.
Unless it's already been used,
Right.
that'd be 0, yeah, so.
All right, Commissioners, additional questions?
And I'll follow up and say that, so the county does have guardrails on that, though, is that anything above 3, we would require a subdivision plan. So they'd have to hire an engineer, and they would have to lay out the lots and blocks to make sure that it meets the requirements of the county, as far as grading, drainage, utilities, and those different types of things.
Okay, so then to avoid that, they would have to only be able to sell 2 of those then?
3,
3?
anything above 3, yep.
Or just make them so they're not all touching, correct, Mr. Brown?
Potentially, there's a way they could plat them out without requiring a subdivision plan, but generally, they would need some type of easement, so that would trigger it.
But in that situation, if you had more than 3, as long as they're not touching each other, that doesn't trigger the subdivision requirements, is that correct?
So typically, what would happen is if it was off a township or a county road, they would require a driveway permit access. And so they typically, our townships are starting to get more developed with the regulations and stuff like that, but typically, they wouldn't allow that many on that.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
but it they wouldn't have to follow the subdivision plan.
Yeah, because they would then make them do like a service road or something like that, and that would trigger, the minute you did an easement, it would trigger.
Not talking about the township, I'm just saying, from the county standpoint, if you got 5 eligibilities in a row, and as long as those parcels aren't touching, there's land in between them, they don't have to follow the subdivision trigger.
As long as the township would approve or the county would approve the driveway access, which
Yeah.
they would not.
Well,
Yeah.
hypothetically, if they did, they wouldn't have to, right?
If they didn't enforce it, then we wouldn't have any reason to deny it, correct? Or require a subdivision.
So that is the workaround of the subdivision.
There's no workaround. There's just,
Oh.
it was really, I think it's just, it's really the township having the requirements in place.
I agree 100% with you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Yeah, if they don't.
it isn't 1,000%. If you have a piece of ground, you got 5 eligibilities and you build one on that side and one on that side and one on that side, and one on that side, you got 4, you don't have to follow subdivision.
Correct,
Yeah, because they aren't touching.
yeah. As long as the township or the county highway superintendent's in
Yeah.
support of that, yep. Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, so since this is public input, nothing formal, I'll ask anyone from the crowd if they have any thoughts on this. We talk back and forth, and we'll maybe make some adjustments to what's written here. And then we'll decide if we want to vote to pass this on to the Board of Commissioners. So, anyone like to speak on this, or?
How are you tonight? Sorry, got choked up there for a second. Anthony James Ventura, 47763 292nd Street, Hudson, South Dakota, is Highway 7034. I believe that signing the right to farm, if we're gonna do it for housing, we should do it for all businesses in this area. Everybody should have the same rules in the same place. I think that the transfer should be from one 40-acre parcel to another 40-acre parcel, so you don't get that stacking effect like Commissioner Scott was talking about. And for the rest of it, I'm going to save my comments for the county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Rodney Miles, 27530 470th Avenue, Lenox. I came down last Friday to see if I could get some numbers as far as what and how these eligibilities are taxed and how much revenue would go to the school and the townships and to the county. And struck out with the assessor's office last Friday, and they sent me to planning and zoning, and the young man there couldn't help me, so I didn't come with any figures. But I know mentioned before, as far as moving these eligibilities, concerns over school districts losing income, townships losing income, so on and so forth. And I guess owning a piece of property that's in a different school district than where I live, I don't get to vote in that school district's decisions whatsoever. I'm just basically held hostage on it. And I don't know if, the schools receive, $5, $20, $100 out of every eligibility that isn't being used on a farm as far as, what the amount would be. But what I would like to see is, I was on a township board for several years, and I know how tight those budgets are, and there's no waste whatsoever as far as, what they have to try to provide with the money they, get. And that's why, I guess, as a landowner, I see a lot of people that are basically held hostage with this adjacent thing in this ordinance, that whether, like, with one farm of mine, I have a dead-end road, I have the interstate on the other side, so basically I have no place to go with them. None of the neighbors would want them. And so I'm paying taxes, whatever that amount is, on these eligibilities with no flexibility to, possibly move them. And as far as the county's revenue, I would think that if we would put something in the ordinance that basically says you can move these eligibilities within the township only. Put a limit on how far they go. You're not gonna hurt the township any. As far as the school districts, even the adjacent thing, one school district may lose out and another one may gain, just moving across the road back and forth somewhat. So I don't think that's gonna be but a minimal impact as long as you keep them within the township. And that would be, I guess, my biggest things that I would like to see changed as far as this ordinance goes. Give people a chance, maybe raise more revenue for the county and townships and everything by being able to move them within the township to a more desirable area on a blacktop road than a gravel road. And if they're taxed at a higher rate that way, it's more income for everybody. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Right, and we did discuss that at one point, just staying within the township.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it started out, is we started out with all the handcuffs off. And we can move them wherever, and I think as we had discussion on that, it kind of spooked a lot of people, and we wondered how it would, how would you track it, right? Yeah, and I understand Mr. Miles's comments. And I think for as many of those as there is, there would be unforeseeable things that I guess I'm not prepared to, I don't understand, wouldn't understand how to regulate it.
Right. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Bethany Eric, 46747 291st Street. I just wanted to say I concur with what the gentleman said right ahead of me. I believe one of the meetings I brought up the possibility that something undesirable moves in nearby. Let's say a solar farm has a glare on your building eligibilities, and your building eligibilities, even congruently, are not going to be valued. You're essentially, by locking them in and requiring the adjacency, it could potentially impact our landowners negatively. So I like the idea of adding a line, as he said, that there is an adjutant, some sort of a process, of an appeal process. If somebody's got a situation like that where they're in the wrong spot, that they can be loosened into the township. I think that's a fabulous idea. It does give some more flexibility and financial fiscal responsibility and autonomy to the landowners. So I just concur with that. So thank you for your time.
Great, thank you.
I'd have to add to that, Commissioner.
Yep.
It just, my thought is right on the same line. I think moving them is great. We have the problem. You do have some land that has eligibilities on that maybe not buildable or even not desirable. But you got a piece across the way, or, you know, your neighbor's willing to trade a little ground or wants an eligibility. I think that's fine to be able to move these eligibilities, but I don't think opening it up to move it anywhere in the county is the greatest idea. I think I like the restraints of a township or set some kind of boundary. I just see too much, maybe, you know, I don't know if I want to call it the money guys, but they'll find a way to get 3 houses in there and then 3 more in there on the back side of it, or 2 more and then 2 more. I just see too many loopholes doing that and pushing the population from these counties here and taking that revenue and moving it north of 18. I mean, I just see that being a major problem in my eyes. But I do believe we should be able to transfer eligibilities and there is some definitely situations. I don't like how it is now where it's adjacent. I think you should be able to work with your eligibilities a little more flexible than they are now, but with some boundaries would be my suggestion as well.
So right now, it's written, just in this draft, is they can be transferred, you don't have to be owned by the same, but they can just, joining. So if you really wanted to, you could transfer it to, if we all live next to each other, I can transfer it to Marlene, and she
Right.
can transfer it to you, and then
Yeah.
if you want to do that far, yeah. But those are pretty good.
But the non-adjacent is the big, how it's written now to remove the adjacent, I think is the big thing for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think the adjacent's in there now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the adjacent is in there
Okay.
now, yes.
All right, more group discussion, or?
Why don't you finish? Anybody else from the public wanna?
Yeah, right, anyone. This is
I got a
back and
few more
forth, whatever we.
Questions, I guess. Seen? Okay. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Wonder if Mr. DeGroot could come up. I have a or yeah, if he gotta come up, but I just got a question. Are, are we able to put verbiage in the ordinance, that would restrict, say that would contain the transfer of the eligibilities to a township? I mean, can we, since we don't really have any authority over the township, can we use that as a border?
Yeah, I think we could, if that's what the planning commission wants to recommend, I think we can draft language that would encompass that. Yeah,
You think that'd be all right? We could use those
as a reference point, border.
as a border?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I think it's part of the revenue for the township. I mean, that's what I look at. I guess I don't, a lot of them probably not gonna get built on. If you could move them to a oil road, you know, still, southern Lincoln County is still close enough to work and everything that it can make it desirable. And these landowners can utilize the revenue, but it stays, you know, within their school district and nobody gets hurt by it, and I don't think it sends them one way, so.
Yes, please, hi.
Dion Erickson, 47341, 288th Street, Beersford. I have a question. So if it's currently written adjacent and it's in one township, it can be transferred from one township to the other, correct?
Uh,
How it's
the-
written right now,
The way it's written right now, the
Yes.
property lines have to be touching.
right?
It does, it's
And
nothing
so
about the
would you
township.
propose if it's limited to a township, then it would no longer be the adjacent if it's outside of the township?
Yes.
I mean, it's just something to think about, that's all I had to
Yes, I
say.
mean, and that's where it would get a little hard, but without being able to set, do you say within 5 miles of my, or the township is, 36 square miles, do you have that radius any direction? Just trying to set a boundary would be the challenging thing, and I'm just using a township as, hey, this is a guideline, we know where the township line is. That would be my thought, or do we look at it and say, here's the size of a township, or here's a within, 10 square miles, or 8 square miles, or, how, I don't know, that's some things I have questions on. Not to lose all the eligibilities in South Lincoln County, north of Highway 18 is my concern.
I'll add to that. Now, you just made me think of something, though, but I agree with you. I'd like it to stay in the township, because as a taxpayer, I'd like to say, keep that within the township. So that's my suggestion, is keeping it within the township is, even if it's adjoining, I would say it would either be adjoining or the same township.
Sure.
Just so that we don't lose, other taxpayers that are sharing the load.
We could say both. It has to be within the township and they have to be property lines touching.
Well, if you want to transfer, they have to be adjacent. If you transfer to a new township, it has to be adjacent to your land. I mean, you maybe can't transfer it out of the township unless it's yours.
So, so the couple concerns, that I guess, so the first concern I have with even with limiting it to the township is the idea of the housing eligibilities and the 1 per 40 acres originally was to create a density, a set density, because before, I think as Mr. Brown explained, you could I think you needed an acre and you could build a house, and so density was infinity. Or at least as many acres as we had in Lincoln County. So by doing that, and then by only allowing transfers to contiguous, that's limited the transfers. And it's really kept density how it is. And I think that's one of the things that we have concerns with in other areas of the county where density maybe wasn't thought about, is now creating problems, right? So even if you've got a township, and I own land in Norway Township, so let's say we take all the eligibilities from southern Norway Township and we go build them around Norway Center so it can be a metropolis. Now we've just transferred all that density, right? We've made a big density change.
Right.
And we still have the same issue that that was my concern in the last 2 meetings, is that we're making a multi-generational decision by doing that. There might be somebody 2 or 3 generations from now that wants to build a house in southern Norway Township, and we just, somebody before them made that decision. And I don't know if that's a decision I'm comfortable with. So I don't know what the process is, or what the compromise is, versus just have an open gate flood of, that's the ordinance, move all your eligibilities to this corner of the township, because now we create a density problem. I understand the township would have a lever there if their township has it in place with driveway permits. I understand that. Still doesn't mean that we can't, we would still approve the transfer probably if the ordinance was that way, whether they have a driveway or not. And then it also, so we have that density issue, and then, I don't know what kind of vacuum that creates for the future. As far as transferring from one township to the other, I don't know who else was here, but we've had that situation where we transferred, I think, 4 of them from one township to the other. And it was an interesting situation because all townships have different agreements with their bordering townships, how they take care of those roads, like, is it, some of them are every other mile, some of them are, they take care of this 3 miles, the next township takes care of this. Anyway, these 2 townships, I believe it was Grant and La Valley. So the township that was losing the eligibilities and the tax revenue by the new houses was the township that was responsible for that road. So they were gonna be burdened with the extra maintenance, of the traffic, but weren't gonna receive the tax revenue, and that was an interesting, I mean, that's a real problem, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion. Now, I suppose that township, if they wanted to, could enter into a negotiation with the other one and say, hey, this isn't right. But now, because we did that, we created a hassle that they didn't have before, So that's something I'm thinking about when we talk about moving them from one township to the other. We do, and I realize it's not gonna happen all the time, but it has happened. So those are kind of my thoughts. I mean, that was where we started, and I didn't think it was that bad of an idea. Then the more I thought about it, I started thinking about some of these other things, and if a goofball like me can come up with just those concerns that fast, I just wonder how many more good ones are out there that'll come up later on, But anyway, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not opposed to it, but I think those are just a few consequences right off the bat, and I think there's probably more that come.
Yeah, I'll just speak for myself here. I like just moving them from properties that are touching. It would maybe happen if we go to another township once in a while, but most of the time, just get rid of the ownership. They don't have to be the same owner, but they have to be touching properties and whatnot. I'm afraid if we open up to the entire township, like I said, if that's 36 square miles or whatever ends up being, that's a pretty wide area, and you could probably get, like you said, someone get a bunch of houses into one area, and then also you're creating commodity, like a liquor license or something like that too, which is we're land use, we're not into creating financial one way or another, so. That's just where I'm at. Marlene or anybody?
I think we're kind of, we talk about density, but that means that how many housing eligibilities are available in Lincoln County? If there's 1 per 40 acres, we have a lot of housing eligibilities.
Yep.
You, of course, are not taxed on those unless they're, if it's ag land, it's ag land. It's not taxed as a housing eligibility. So moving them, the thing about moving them is then someone would build on them. Moving them within a township, I guess I don't see a real problem with that. Contiguous, you have to have a lot of people who want to build to be concerned about losing all of them in one township. I just really believe that you have to have a lot of people who want to move because you have a lot of building eligibilities out there, if it's 1 per 40 acres. So moving them within a township, yeah, they could all move to one spot, but they have to have a way to move to one spot. They have to have we've limited to 1 acre. It has to be at least 1 acre, and you have to have a way to get on that property. So your driveways are probably going to be a bearing factor there, so that they can all build there. I suppose they could do they could go through the work of making it a subdivision or whatever, but there's still controls for that as well. So I think to believe that we're gonna have that many people out in the country, it'll all be metropolis. All of Lincoln County will be a metropolis.
It's a good point. Roughly 144 eligibilities per township, and then
Per
you.
township.
And then you gotta minus off, or no, it'd be more than that, times 4.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot
Yeah.
of housing eligibilities out there. And if
So
we're
it'd be-
gonna be concerned about taking them from one township,
576, and then
from
minus.
one township and leaving it without, we're gonna have a city. I mean, we're gonna have a town in someplace else, moving them across the town or across the county. Yes, that's a concern, but I think moving them within a township to make it a better place. There are probably a lot of non-buildable places, as Toby said, in Lincoln County. I mean, it still has to be a buildable lot. And so I think moving in within a township isn't that terrible.
All right, so is there any proposed changes the way this is written?
One other concern, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So I think one of the other things we've talked about in the past is that this, you know, that this remains in good intentions, that the transfer is actually for somebody that wants to build a house. And it isn't just compiling a commodity for a later date, or you know, investment. So one of the things I wondered about is once an eligibility that we limit it to, an eligibility only transfers once.
Right, that's it, written there too, yes, yep.
It is.
I believe so, right, Toby? Mr. Brown? Yep.
Where does it say that, Toby?
It just says the receiving partial shall consist.
I don't think that it says that it.
Once it's moved, it's gotta stay.
It just says the receiving partial shall consist.
Yeah, but it
of-
doesn't limit that they could take that eligibility and move it again,
Move it from where?
from there to the next piece of property.
Where it's moved? Yeah, they can move from there, but they
Yeah,
can't move back.
no, I understand that, yeah, yeah.
I see.
But I guess if we put a limit of the township, then it really doesn't matter, does it?
So, as far as the township part, just to be clear, you can do that today. It can cross township boundaries. So that proposal would restrict it greater than it is today. And potentially that could have an impact on the value of the eligibilities. And that was one of the things that we originally, 2 years ago, we started this discussion. There was a discussion about limiting it to townships for tax base, so that it didn't leave the township. But potentially, if you restrict it just within the township, that could reduce the value of what that eligibility is, if it can't move outside. I'm not saying that's positive or negative, I'm just giving you a devil's advocate of what that would be. The easiest way, if you want to keep it within the township, is to just say it can't leave a township. But then if you're gonna do that, I would recommend that you take off the contiguous part, so it could move within a township.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so that would be, if you wanna restrict it to just the township, then take off both contiguous
Yeah,
and same owner.
I think that's a discussion where,
Yep.
yeah, it's either that or, yep.
And you could still address, you know, couldn't we still address them, Jason, like you said, township across the road, and this 40 acres is a slough and I can build across the road. I mean, can we still look at same landowner, just moving on a conditional or moving like we have in the past, you know, just moving eligibility? I mean, we would still have case-by-case chances to look at that had somebody wanted to cross that line, you know, the township line.
No, I mean, if we're gonna tighten it that way, there's no exception to it then.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying that's what it would be, what it is. And that's probably right now, that's why Commissioner Scott will say it's a workaround on this part now, it's not, it's legal what they're doing, but, the other part of it would be is if, you know, the exceptions would be tough on that one. It'd be tough, because they could do swap owners and stuff like that, so. But again, in 1995, the county created a commodity, and that commodity is not, you're not taxed on it per se, So I'm going to delve into taxes, and then Carla's going to yell at me in the morning, but essentially, so for agriculture, that's based on productivity of your soil.
Right.
It's not based on sales, it's not based on anything, it's just how productive your soil is. Anything beyond ag, so if you're not getting the ag exemption, everybody else, it's market. So if your neighbor sells, whatever your neighbor sells your land for is what it is. So what skewed everything in Lincoln County is that we were selling acres of land for $500,000. And nobody could figure out why that was. Well, it was because they were buying an eligibility with that acre of land. Yeah. So that skewed a lot of the numbers that currently exist right now. So the idea is we're getting a lot of requests from people that want kids to move back to the property. Those people don't live contiguous under same ownership. So is there a way to transfer those eligibilities to make the value of those eligibilities to the south go to the north for those people that live in the south? So it's a debate that we're going to continue to have as far as what it works, you know. But releasing the same ownership really doesn't change anything that we're doing now. It just clarifies it and codifies what we're doing currently, so. Policymaking, right? You know, it's a, you know, but again, this, you and I are not policymakers. I'm administrator, you guys are a appointed board. The policymakers, is the Board of Commissioners, and they'll decide on this. Our role is really to give them a good recommendation of what the you know, is, and I thought this was a great process with the public input where we could have dialogue.
Yep.
You know, because as you're aware, when we do a public hearing, there's no dialogue. We're not supposed to talk to the public. We're supposed to let the public talk, you know. So this really gave us a good chance to have some input and dialogue. So I appreciate that from that perspective, so.
So, yeah, let's make some wording changes and, well, we're not in a hurry, but still, me, if you open it up to the entire township, which is a larger area, I think we're really, it's still, just in my opinion, opening up a little bit too much.
Is the concern clustering then? Like, we don't want that to happen?
Yeah, I'm just thinking like in the northern Lincoln County here, I mean, you could find one field and probably move them from southern Lincoln all the way to northern Lincoln and do a bunch of stuff that we didn't intend, just my thoughts, but I get southern Lincoln too, where if you do want to move them for your family or whatnot, so it's a tale of both ends of the county.
You know, that argument, we keep, you know, we hear that. I think by removing the contiguous and making that an easier process, that helped, I mean, that kind of solves for that, right?
Agreed.
It doesn't solve for, I know Mr. Ventura brought it up, was it at the last meeting or the meeting before, Mr. Miles has brought it up. It doesn't solve for, you know, a piece of property that is undesirable to build on, and you've got these eligibilities, and what do you do with them, you know, if you don't move them? It could solve for it, I guess, if the neighboring property wanted them. But you can't take them from way down somewhere and move them way, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, for
Yeah,
myself,
I don't know, it's
myself, for example, I have a 10-acre property.
a strange deal.
Yeah, I have a 10-acre property, it's all wet land, has one housing eligibility. You know, I can't build on it unless I do a ton of engineering or whatnot, and I don't ever intend to, but, you know, if we open like this, I could sell it to someone wherever. But, you know, that's. Oh, all right, Commissioner, do we want to make a recommendation, change any wording to the Board of Commissioners, or what are you thinking?
I don't know.
Bring it back another week, another month?
So are you saying just to remove contiguous and same owner both? And not specify anything more, or?
I'm not saying anything different than what's already there, I guess.
All right, all right, because you just
Yeah.
said something about removing contiguous, so.
Well, that's in the, or not contiguous, I meant same ownership.
Oh,
I
all right,
misspoke.
all right,
Sorry,
all right.
thanks for pointing that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I
All
misspoke.
right, because I
No.
thought, okay,
No,
all right.
no.
I'm comfortable with the way it's written, but again, we're all
Yeah, I guess I understand the whole density. I like the change. I think we need a change in it, just for, the family farms, but we all know the investors out there that are, gonna make some moves on some of this stuff as well. So, I mean, I'm okay with the transfer, the non-continuous, I'm okay with all that. I just don't know, like you said, the multi-generational error we made in 20 years and went, oh boy, what have we done?
Yeah, that's,
I just don't know the impact of that, and I haven't digested that quite. And I just know how things happen right around my house, just because I'm close to Sioux Falls. And it's like a free-for-all anyhow, and nothing with the county, I mean, between the city of Harrisburg, but anything that happens close, they'll find a way. They'll come in the back way of the field, they'll make a new road. I mean, they'll get 3 houses up there, a lot next to me, like Toby said, sells for $500,000. Because it's desirable. Well, what did we do? We took that land and made it unrealistic value because there was no chance of building there until today. And now we put an unrealistic value on that place, because somebody wants it. I don't know that I like moving them anywhere in the county. I like a boundary of some kind, I guess. That's where I would stand.
and technically, the way it's written right now, and I realize this, it would take some work, but you could move it, you could move it anywhere in the county with the way it's written right now. You could just,
From.
yeah, you just keep leapfrogging.
Yeah, if you got all
You have to
the
line
land
up
to
for
go
a
and
conditional
get
use
suits
every
on that,
month,
you
but,
could, yes.
yeah, you could keep it going, I suppose, huh?
You sure could.
That'd take a lot of coordination.
Yep, you'd have to do a lot of work, and
Oh,
teamwork, if you do that work, good for you.
That's right.
I'm just picking it out. I mean,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be anything that stops it.
Oh, you're right.
Then we'd just be lined up with housing eligibility transfers every month, that, doing 50 of them, so that we could get them to Lake Elvin.
All right. Do we have a recommendation we want to make, or do you want to bring it back another month and think on it? Team?
I don't see the hurry, I guess. I don't see why we couldn't think about it some more and talk to more people, get some more input would be, but whatever you guys want to do.
All right, we'll bring it back next month. Everyone? Monty?
Fine.
Marlene?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big decision. I think we all want to be comfortable.
We want to be comfortable, but we're also recommending this. I mean.
That's true.
Doesn't mean it's a resolution, it's an ordinance now.
Yeah,
Yeah, the board of commissioners can change it.
so we could just as well
100
do that
degrees.
too. We could, I mean,
They could send it back with
And
another
that's-
recommendation.
Yeah, and that's open to them. I mean, as we process it, we can be at their meeting too and give comments, so. But yeah, I think, and it's like Toby says, it's definitely something that has to be, we want to stay moving forward with it too, so.
So another alternative to keep moving would be to make some changes to the draft. We do the same thing next month, so you can see them and so the public can see kind of what that would look like. So the one alternative that I heard tonight was it would be, take off contiguous, same owner, but restricted to just within that township. Is that something you'd like to see on paper? How it would look?
That's my stand, yes.
And then pick between the two?
Sure.
Because I mean, I like the way it's written right now.
Well, like I always say, these are laws that we have to administer and enforce. It's good to look at how it would look on paper, so you can see how, and for the public to see that too. Does that make sense? Okay,
I think that would be acceptable.
okay, we'll do an option B
Do an
then, it'll be
option
that,
B,
yeah,
and
yep,
we'll see what it looks like, and
Yep.
then we can decide which one we'd rather do.
yep.
I mean, because at some point, we're going to have to make up our mind and move forward.
Recommendation. The
Recommendation.
board gets to decide what they're
Yes,
gonna do.
right.
Yes, yeah, yep,
Yes.
so,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
okay, all right.
All right. All right, now we are going to move on to item number 2, which is our ordinance, same setup for non-accessory solar farms, solar energy system, reading that deal. So again, yeah, Toby's going to give a little history, then we can have the same discussion back and forth.
So as you're aware, again, so to reiterate, is that this particular regulation would only be for the unincorporated area of the county outside of the joint jurisdictional area. So if it's within a city, these regulations would not apply to any municipality. So since the last meeting, change that we did make was increase the setback from 500 feet to 750 feet. That's what we heard a lot from the public, as well as did add a provision, density, which should also be the buzzword that we've talked about tonight is density, but essentially density congregation of the facilities. So added some language in there that if there's one existing or newer expansion within 2,500 feet of an existing or expansion, that we would do a review for aggregate impact. So heard a lot of comments from the public that the congregation of them or the aggregate, and that's typically any land use. So it's a good provision to start talking about for all land uses in the county, would be to determine some aggregate impact. And with that, then we would put additional conditions to mitigate any of those impacts that would be identified. So those were the really only changes. So again, the land use does not exist, non-accessory solar energy systems. Currently, accessory solar energy systems are permissive use in the county. So those are typically used to power buildings, houses, accessory type structures. What this proposed regulation would do is to create a provision for those that are non-accessory. So generally would be what we call solar farms or solar gardens that are generating power to send off-site instead of utilizing that power on-site. Would be really the provision what it is. So the regulations, screening, decommissioning, all that. But again, these are performance standards, so this would be a conditional use permit. So same process goes through public hearing. Any concerns that would be addressed would be additional conditions that you could add to it. So if there's things with, different things with noise provisions and those different types of things, we typically better add those as a condition of approval as opposed to a performance type standard with it. So that allows flexibility so that if we can increase those, decrease those regulations throughout the process. Okay? So those are the only changes that were made from the previous draft, and that's really to address some of the comments that we heard from the public. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair. Any questions for staff at this time?
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any additional questions for staff? Any clarifications?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any public input or thoughts or conversation?
Good evening, Sarah Stever, 46850, 276th Street in Lenox. Quick question first, the 750 feet from, sorry, I had it pulled up here. Is that from, it says residence, is that the property line or the structure?
I believe the way it's written be the structure.
Okay, well, that would be a request for mine. I guess would be a property line rather than structure. You got, where it says operational areas, including fencing and solar array, shall be located a minimum of 50 feet from adjacent property lines and public rights of way, if that could also be extended to the people who happen to live there, rather than just from their parcel or from their property structure. The second thing would be just a reminder, the thing that I've mentioned a few times, the Virginia Tech study which did indicate that property values dropped within a 3-mile radius of a solar farm. And conversely or inversely increased ag land prices by about almost 20%. So I bring that up again because I'd like to request that the neighborhood notification requests, which are not addressed here at all, which I assume are probably because it's addressed in the conditional use permit overall. That be right, Toby? Can you make an exception for that so that a broader group of people whose land prices and/or property prices would be impacted by a solar farm can be notified so that they can be part of the process?
Do you have a radius you had in mind, Sarah?
Well, the study that they gave was 3 miles. If you were within 3 miles of a utility scale solar farm, your property values dropped 4.8%, which is pretty significant. If you were within a half a mile, the drop in value was 8%, so it almost doubled. So I would say 3 miles would be the polite thing to do, just to let those people know so they could be part of the process. I know sometimes you don't get any feedback from anyone, so maybe it doesn't matter, but it does have an impact, and I think it would be a proper thing to do. I do like the screening and the decommissioning bond. I think I mentioned that before. I think those are great additions. One other thing that I think potentially is still missing, although I can hold that if you want, is that battery energy storage system ordinance that would accompany that, should there be one with a solar farm. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, so. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So currently then, what's the setback is just 750 feet from neighboring residents. So basically on this, we would make it almost half of what our smallest CAFO setback would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that distance is, but
1,320.
take your word for it.
Maybe I said it last month again, but I struggle with that we could fill up 80 acres or a quarter, or the way Mr. Brown talks, these things want to be 1,000 acres. We could fill that up with solar panels and require a smaller separation distance than we could from a young family that wants to raise 250 head of cows. I know what I'd rather live across the road from, or rather live 750 feet from, you know? So I don't know why we wouldn't, I don't know where that number came from, maybe we talked about it, but I wonder if we shouldn't just increase that. To at least make it mirror, at least the minimum of what our minimum standard is on CAFOs, which is 1,320 feet. And we don't have any setbacks that are 750 feet, so at least if we made it 1,320 feet, it'd be consistent with what we're already doing. The CAFO setbacks are quarter mile at a time. And then they operate just like somebody that doesn't meet the minimum setback on a CAFO. Is there's a waiver process, so that at least puts people in a negotiation, you know. I don't know, just thought.
Yeah. Any other, yes.
Bethany Eric, 46747 291st Street, Centerville. I did some research on this, looked up Clay County's ordinance, and one of the things that Clay County, South Dakota has implemented is number 6, financial assurance. Before construction begins on the project, the facility owner shall provide the zoning administrator a certificate of insurance, either a performance or surety bond, which covers the total cost to decommission the facility. The certificate of insurance shall be renewed and a copy submitted to zoning administrator each year the facility is in operation. From all the damage and lead leaching that we've seen water damage, wells being contaminated by the plastics and the leads that are in these solar panels. When the hailstones hit them and they fracture, it releases chemicals. So having an surety bond would be a very wise physical move for our community. So I hope that you'll consider that. I also very much applaud the extended setbacks. I believe on my big CAFO near me is 3/4 mile, not just 1/4, but 3/4. So thank you for hearing us, and I hope you'll consider, putting a financial surety bond on them just for our own protection. Our taxpayers shouldn't be liable for that cleanup if necessary.
And I think I read this in 5, and you guys let me know if I'm wrong, but the project on decommissioning must hire a third-party engineer to put together a cost estimate, and then the owner must provide a bond, a letter of credit, or establish an escrow account in the name of the landowner.
I see that as well. The difference between ours and what Clay County has is the fact that in their first statement, before construction begins, that's in place.
Okay.
Thanks.
Before construction.
Mr. Chair, and to address Ms. Stevers' question or concern about the increased notification, can we do that for just one kind of conditional use permits, or are the notification distance set on all conditional uses? Can we make an exception?
So the ordinance requires 500 feet for notification. There is exceptions currently for wind, CAFOs, and carbon oxide. Those are 1 mile total on all of those.
So we could
Yeah,
change
we would
the-
just add it to that. You would decide if you want it to be 1 mile like the rest of them, or if you want it to be additional.
And then we can also add that the applicant is responsible for the notification so that it's not on the county's burden?
That's already part of it.
That is, okay,
Yep,
very
yep,
good.
Yep. Well, there's a burden, we give them the stuff. I mean, they have to, but they're the ones.
But
that
it's their
manage.
expense, yeah.
Yep, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't think that'd be a big deal, adding a bigger radius. I think that's just prudent.
I don't think so. I don't think it's a big deal. They don't cost the county at all because they're paying for it.
Right, yeah.
The more notice, the more better.
Mm-hmm.
More input.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So are you thinking 3 miles as a suggestion, or should we do 1 mile like all the other ordinances are?
I'm okay with
Where's
3.
Sarah at? What do you think, Sarah?
We got a couple of 3 votes.
Yeah.
Start the bidding at 3?
Well, I think that'd be a good place to start because Sarah has she's got some evidence on why it should be that. I mean, it's not a number pulled out of thin air. I think it'd be a good spot to start. Again,
Yep.
I really don't think that's that big of an ask,
Yeah,
or
and
big of a burden to the applicant.
And I think the people within that 3 miles, if there's a project of that scope, will know, but it's nice that we know they know,
Yep.
so.
Sounds good to me.
I don't see a problem with that at all.
How are we feeling about increasing the setback to 1320? And that's from the property line, not just from the structure.
What's the CAFO read? Does it say property line or does it say structure?
Structure. The problem with property lines, and I don't disagree with them, but it basically makes everything impossible then, because you can never get 1,320 feet from a property line.
If they own a section or a 40, then
Yeah, I
that's the
mean,
property line.
I suppose if you defined it as a property line with a dwelling, then you could, but if you just say from, which maybe it would, but for instance, like I live on a quarter of ground, my house is quite a ways away from the property line, so, but then it would have to be that. I mean, it'd be fine, but it would make it more restrictive.
So instead of 1,350 feet, you could be 1,800, 2,000 feet?
Yeah, it'd probably be 2,000 feet from my
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Yep, hi.
Dion Erickson, 47341 288th Street, Beersford. Since you're talking about notifications and the 3 miles, I have a question. How many days' notice for CUPs, like the CAFOs and the solar farms? How many days' notice do they have to give the people within that limit? Is it 10 days? Okay, so that,
10 days?
I think, my recommendation, just to help benefit the people who live there to respond, if I get notification when I come back from vacation and I've been gone a week, and then I have 3 days to research everything and know everything I should be concerned about on a CAFO or a solar farm, it gives me 3 days to completely educate myself and be able to stand up for my concerns and my questions. And I feel that's not very adequate time. I think if we could increase it to maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, just a little longer, so if people are on vacation or out, you have some time to be able to, document your concerns, research them. Maybe you have questions, or maybe you can answer your own questions if you're just given the time. And maybe instead of having moratoriums, people ask for those because they don't have time, and then they get turned down. So possibly if we could extend it to 14 or 15 days, giving people adequate time to return from vacations or out of town or work trips where they can get the notice and do some research. Thanks.
Toby, what would that do to staff
That
if we did that?
That'd push any conditional use out probably to the second month, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, which is fine. I mean, that would just, you'd submit an application, we'd have to wait 2 months, and.
It'd be a 2-month wait on any application you want to do. That's for sure. I would think.
And the real problem we're having right now is the US Postal Service. Is that, we're getting them and we're turning them around right away to get them out, but they're still not getting it. The people aren't receiving it until almost the day before the public hearing. So, I mean, it's, we're almost might have to go to that point unless the Postal Service kind of corrects what's going on with what they got going on.
And I do know the Postal Service, it's 7 days to get something mailed across town. So,
Yep.
I mean, it is. And that's.
More than that sometimes.
Right, I'm just saying, I'm experiencing in our business, it's 7 days to get it across Sioux Falls. So I couldn't tell you what it takes elsewhere, but we're experiencing that, so yes, maybe you're gonna get a lot of slack on something like that, on some of these guys wanna get their buildings going, and if it's a 2 months process, I mean, is maybe something we gotta look at. The mail is that slow. I mean, people do need time to be notified and understand what's happening, I believe, but snail mail maybe not the way to do it. And that's the only way we know how to get a hold of everybody.
It would just, I don't mind from a staff perspective, we would just want that in law, because we're gonna get a lot of brushback from the applicants. I mean, what's hard to believe is we're usually the last to know of anything. They've already got their contractor lined up, they've already got the project moving. That you would think the planning and zoning would be the first, but we're usually the last that knows about these different types of things. So I'd be concerned that, we already do get a lot of brushback from the public as far as the deadlines, timelines and stuff like that. So, yeah, whatever the board decides on that part of it, we can make it work. It's just, and then the other issue in South Dakota, the building seasons, is there's a window of time that people have to get their stuff put together. So it's a balance that you're gonna have to look at with it. But again, not to bash Postal Service, we've got a real issue right now with getting notification out to the public currently. So we hear it every month. I mean, it's a challenge that we're working on, so, but. So I guess the answer is, it'd be great to get as much notification as we can. It's just, we're gonna have to make sure that it's clearly in the ordinance that we're gonna take an application, you're not gonna be heard till 2 months from now. So.
Yeah, and you see it every day, like you said, there's 95% of the applicants are ready to roll, and I want that permit, I need it on this month's meeting, and most of them are just a simple conditional use, that there's no abstain to, and they're like, why can't I go? I gotta wait 2 months, that's what Toby's gonna look at. I mean,
rules are
we
the
gotta
laws
look
allow
at little time there, I think. I do believe people are entitled to time. If you get a notice 3 days before, that's a little late.
So with that, I would say two things is, one is, so again, the deadline is 5 o'clock on the day of the meeting. So today at 5 o'clock, was our deadline for next month's meeting. So there's not a huge window there to begin with.
Right.
To work with. Beyond that, if the public ever approaches us with concerns or they didn't feel like their questions are answered, we immediately tell them to appeal. So they can go through the appeal process to then take it to the next level with it. So, yeah, if there's any concern that people felt like their questions weren't answered, they had concerns, they couldn't speak adequately about it, we direct them to appeal it. So.
I got a follow-up question.
Yep.
So as we're talking about just the, notice for just solar farm CUP conditions, or are we talking about CUPs across the board?
That'd be up to the board.
So, well, I mean, I'm just thinking like, at least for, because I guess the topic is the solar farm CUP, ordinance or whatever, so I mean, something of that could be that size. I mean, I could see like, pushing it to 2 weeks or something, because again, mail, and I'd say, like, I understand, contractors are, they have a goal and they're gonna be organized, but the public is not. I mean, the public's gonna be on the back foot from the beginning. And so I think giving them adequate time to, prepare, be at the meeting, know what they're gonna talk about, because it's usually something that they have no knowledge of, whether it be, they're just someone that lives where they live and they have their own life and their own job and they have no idea what a solar farm is. And so, like you said, like people have said, to educate yourself just takes time. And, just, it is what it is. So, yeah, I think just giving people enough time, like if it's 2 weeks or what have you, and, because we also have to deal with, the mail, or, I don't know how else we post stuff, or how legally you can post stuff. I don't know if it's, if you have to do stuff electronically nowadays, I don't know. But,
So to make it really complicated, I'll answer a question. So in the, in the joint jurisdictional zoning, we don't send notification out. Per that ordinance, we just post the property. That's 5 days prior to the public hearing. And the regular zoning ordinance, or the general zoning ordinance, we're required the applicant's required to mail within the 10 days. Mail, not receive, just mail. And then we also post the property within 5 days of the public hearing. One thing that I think has worked really well that I've mentioned before is the change of zone process where we do the neighborhood meetings. I think that's allowed the applicant and staff to get out, work with the neighbors to make sure that we answer all the questions. Because again, I reiterate again, is that the public hearing process is an opportunity for public to comment. It's not necessarily a question and answer session. So a lot of the stuff that we hear from the public is, they don't answer the questions, whether it be the planning commission or the board of commissioners. So one alternative could be is to speed it up, or to slow it down would just be required a neighborhood meeting for conditional use permits.
That's what I was wondering. Could we put that in here as you were talking about that a neighborhood meeting would be required before public hearing?
Sure. But again, that's going to take time to do that. Yeah.
But I don't think time's a problem when
Yeah.
you have big things like this.
And again, from a staff perspective, we're not trying to convince the neighbors to feel a certain way or the other. It's really just to answer all the questions that they may have.
Well, because you're exactly right. That's what ends up happening,
Yep.
is then folks show up here with questions and don't really get them answered. And so I think they need a time where they can ask questions and get their questions answered.
Yeah.
That seems fair.
So leave it at 10 days as it is, but just make a neighborhood meeting, or are you thinking about doing both?
I think the 10 days would be fine if a neighborhood meeting was called.
But the notification wouldn't come until after
After the neighborhood meeting.
You'd have
Yes,
to have that
yes.
first.
Well, the notification is to notify of a public hearing.
Right.
It's not, the notice really doesn't tell you exactly what, tells you what the land use is, it doesn't tell you what it is.
Who organizes these neighborhood meetings? Do you do it?
Yeah, we have the applicant send out, so we give the applicant what the notice area would be. We have them send out a letter just saying the neighborhood meeting.
Just
and then we
within
do-
the notification area?
Yeah, yep.
So if we increase the notification area to, say, 3 miles, and required this neighborhood meeting, then the applicant would have to send that notification out to the people within 3 miles. So like Ms. Stevers says, then everybody within 3 miles would be notified, could come to this neighborhood meeting and ask their questions. Seems fair?
And then, I mean, it also has a provision where, because not everybody, we pick a date. It's not like, here's 3 dates and you're going to come, it's one date. But there's a provision in there where they can call staff, or they can contact the applicant if they have any questions, if they can't make it to the meeting or whatever like that. But the times that we've did it on the rezones, now it's going to be an impact on staff. I mean, it's going to take time, and those are at night, so there's some additional things there. But I think if that's the concern, that's a better way to address it than sending it out 3 more miles. I don't think that's going to address the concern that the public has about making sure they're aware of and have questions and answers, so.
For the public hearing, but we could require that the notification of the neighborhood meeting go out 3 miles.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good alternative, because to answer, Commissioner Moser's question too is, CAFO applications, how many have we had in the last 5 years? 2? But how many car sales have we had up in the northern part of the county? A lot. So if you're gonna notify them 1,000 feet or a mile, I mean, right now at 500 feet, they're notifying potentially 300 people. I mean, 300 different addresses up there. So, I mean, when you have county regulations, you gotta make sure you take into account all of the implications of what that would be.
Well, I think this would just be for the
Yeah, for the neighborhood
solar
meeting.
notification,
Yep, yeah. That's a compromise. That'd be a way to move forward with it, yeah, so.
Yeah,
I could support that.
I definitely support that.
So getting back to the setback too, so the 750, the idea there is that's a hard setback. That doesn't vary. So if you go to the 1320, you'd probably have to have some type of a waiver process into it. But the idea is that we really desired a hard setback so that there was no way to provision it, because there's a lot of pressure put on an applicant to the neighbors for a waiver obtainment. So.
Yeah, but
Could we just reverberate it?
but what the waiver does do is, so if you happen to live 800 feet, you're still closely impacted and you get no say in it at all. At least if you increase it and give it a waiver, you do give an out to those neighbors that don't want to be a part of it. I think that's better than personally, I like that better. And again, I don't see why we would make the setback less than what we're currently doing with CAFOs. So, I mean,
But it's not our choice if it becomes a waiver. It's the neighbor's choice.
Yeah, but that's the same, that's the same, it's the exact same way we handle CAFOs.
With a waiver, yep.
Yeah,
So in theory, if they sign a waiver, it could be 50 feet.
correct.
Okay.
So that way we're given options. Mhm. But it puts the the closest people that are affected, the ability to negotiate.
So I'll make those changes and we'll talk about it next month.
Yeah, I'm open to all that.
Yeah, I'm very good with
Good
that.
talk, about- yeah.
And I would say like someone said about the bond being before construction.
Yeah. Toby, or Mr. Brown, did you pick that up? The bond before construction? For
Application or construction?
Construction.
construction.
Construction, yeah. Because it could be 8 months before they start construction.
Hi.
Hi, Beth Quayle, 47926 275th Street, Harrisburg. I just have a question on the building of data centers and solar farms and where they're being built. Why can't they be built in an industrial park rather than using agricultural land and disrupting people who live in the country's lives by having them, right next door to them? That's my question. Is there a reason why they're not being built there?
I can give I don't know if I'm right, but, or just how I feel having a conversation back and forth. If it's a solar farm or a Burger King or anything like that, I don't know if we have the right to tell them where they go. They can, as long as they fit within that use, that conditional use or that property. Is there anything you can help with that, Toby, or any thoughts? Yeah, just in my thought, it's not our deal to tell them how to be a business or what works best for them. That's just my thought. Well, it's all conversation, yeah. Yeah, I think we're ready for the next one. We're gonna go move on to data centers, so Dovie's going to give us a history of that again, or a history.
So the Board of Commissioners requested a recommendation from the Planning Commission on data centers. And I'll maybe defer to Commissioner Otten for more details on that, I guess, but just in general, we can talk about it. But so currently, right now, data centers do have a land use and a regulation within the county. So number one, they're not allowed in the A1 agricultural area. So they cannot be built as a land use in the A1 agricultural area. They can only be built in the commercial or the I1 or the I2 zoning districts. Secondary is that they would require, more than likely would require a change of zone application and also a conditional use permit. The change of zone would be limited, why I put up the future land use map under the comprehensive plan. The change of use would only be allowed within the planned growth area or within the rural service nodal areas. That'd be the only guided areas it would be. So if they decided they wanted to be 3 miles outside of Canton, that would not be supported with the comprehensive plan. The only place that they would be allowed by a change of zone would be in the planned growth area and the rural service areas. None of the land really in the planned growth or the rural service area is change of zone now. It's all A1, so it would have to go through the change of zone process. Within the planned growth area, that process, based on history of the last year that we've worked on change of zones within the planned growth area, it takes about 8 months from start to finish. From when they start talking to us until they get approval would be about 8 months. And so how it would work in the planned growth area would be how we did it with the other change of zones that we had last year. So the first step is staff would meet with the applicant and city staff, whether it be Harrisburg T, and we would discuss if the city's comprehensive plan supports that land use within that planned growth area. In the case of Harrisburg, their current comprehensive plan does not designate land uses outside of about 4 spots. So they went through an amendment to their comprehensive plan. So that required public hearing, required posting, and then they went through that process through Planning Commission and through their city council. Staff, I did participate in all those sessions to answer any questions that those boards would have, as well as the applicant was in attendance as well too. I told them at the time, and I still tell them today, is that it doesn't matter what the recommendation is. If it's denial, then staff would recommend denial based on that provision, because the current comprehensive plan says the planned growth area is guided by the underlying planning of the municipality. Doesn't mean the planning commissioner, doesn't mean that the board of commissioners has to approve it or deny it. I just, from staff's perspective, we're following the comprehensive plan, and that's the way it was guided to be. So as we went through that process, then it would go to the Planning Commission on a recommendation of staff and of the comprehensive plan. Then it would go, and again, at the time that it went through Harrisburg, that could have been appealed. It could have went through a vote, could have been litigation. There's different mechanisms that citizens of the surrounding area within those municipalities can make their decision. And it worked out really well, because allowing those citizens that aren't under that jurisdiction, so it started again, when I started talking about this, the city's jurisdiction again is within their municipal corporate limits, same as their citizens. So, but if there was things that were outside the city within their growth areas that they wanted to object to, they could certainly do that through that process. Same with ours, it can be referred to a vote, or it can be litigated through that process. The nodal type areas, those are guided for more commercial, industrial type uses. I should back up, is that then what we did per the comprehensive plan, the current comprehensive plan is that all those change of zones were not conventional rezones. So we didn't go to commercial, industrial, rural, residential. They were all planned development districts. And so a planned development district, again, it's not a conventional zone, it's a new zone, or it's a new zoning district. So if you remember, we named it after the people that applied for it, like Kurtenbach Planned Development District and those different types of things. So when you create the planned development district, you create the land uses within it, you create the regulations within it. So if you remember those, we permitted just specific commercial uses, specific residential uses. So it doesn't matter if we already had a residential land use or zoning district, or we had a commercial or industrial land use, we created a whole new district, essentially is what it was. But that allowed us to rezone with conditions on it. So the biggest challenge we have, and this isn't just Lincoln County, it's all jurisdictions, when you do a conventional rezone by state law, we can't put conditions on that change of zone. So the rezone is really just allowing them to do all the land uses that are within a conventional zoning district. So if it's commercial, industrial, and I tell this story periodically, is that prior to the new comprehensive plan being adopted, we would get a lot of requests to change the zone to something, and they would tell us a story that they're going to do this or do that. 99% of the time they did that. The 1%, the really painful 1%, they didn't do that. They did something else. But they legally could because we changed the zone to commercial or industrial type land use. The benefit of the planned development district is we lock them in. So we tell them that you have to, these are the land uses we have, we can put conditions on it, we can go through that process. So it worked really well in the past, and that's how it would work within that area, if a proposed data center would be within that area. So again, you might consider like, well, if we want to add conditions for data centers, for noise and for setbacks and all those different types of things, if we did that, that's not going to apply to this area here because you're only going to do planned developments within that area there per the comprehensive plan. So does that make sense? Okay. So again, if it was a change of zone for that specifically, it would be a new created zoning district with stipulations within that zoning district. But the benefit of that is the public knows up front what they're going to expect. And then the benefit of planned development too is we lock in the site plan. So is that any changes to that site plan would have to go through, restart through the whole entire process. Because typically a data center is going to be, the Googles, the Metas are not the applicant. The applicant is a site selector. The site selector doesn't know the details of if it's even going to be coming in. They're selling it to the highest bidder at that stage. So this process allows us to override that process. So instead of getting, propose something that probably is not going to happen, or the people that are selling it don't really know the details of it, we're going to require at that stage that doesn't happen. We have to know what the project is at the time of the change of zone. So that's the benefit of that part of it. The rural service areas, that's where your commercial, industrial type areas are going to be located. Now, typically the boards could request so that it still be a planned development within there, but they could do conventional rezones within those particular areas. But nowhere outside of that, within the agricultural area, a data center would not be allowed under the comprehensive plan, which is really the most important thing. Is like we always talk about zoning and about land use and all other stuff. The most important thing is about the future land use, which is what we want the community to develop as. And again, we went through a 2-year process, took a lot of public input. We had over 1,000 people contribute to this, not attend, not sign-in sheets. They actually commented on the plan. And that process that I just walked you through with the plan development was the biggest change that the public wanted. They desired something that they weren't being sold a bill of goods, that the change of zones were going to match what they were being told at the public hearings, was going to told what they expected to happen. And that's really through that process there. So the last thing I would say, if we received a data center application today, can the county deny it today? Yes, the county could deny an application today. We do have the regulations. So what's the difference between this and the carbon oxide pipelines? Carbon oxide pipelines, prior to the ordinance being adopted, was a permissive use. Didn't require any public notification, didn't require any board approval. And in fact, it didn't even require a building permit. So as of now, carbon oxide pipelines, you're well aware, is it does potentially take a rezone and a conditional use permit, much like the data center under the current ordinance would be. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just wanted to explain to you kind of the process that would be right now. Again, the most important thing is they're not allowed within the A1 agricultural zoning district today. Potentially, if you create a separate land use, that would be a discussion that you would have to have associated with it, as if you would then allow them in the A1 agricultural zoning district. But the constraints of our regulations right now, it would not be an appropriate zoning district to have it in the A1 agricultural district. Okay? Does that kind of make sense?
I think you did a really good job, Mr. Brown. You know, so for an example, that, about a year ago, we looked at that property out by Lake Alvin, and at first it was like a rezone to multifamily, and that 3 acres they could have then put on, if we did that, 30 houses.
Yeah.
But the way we did it, planned development district, we allowed it to 3 houses, you know, and they had to have this setback and this road and this maintenance, and we set all these rules on them. And so there was no question, they couldn't do anything else either. There's 3 houses, they couldn't do 4 houses, they couldn't do this or they couldn't do that. Different scale, but.
Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Brown, just so, the way I understood that, after you explained it all, is that anything in the green currently, as is, we wouldn't allow a data center.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Wouldn't even allow them to, they couldn't even apply for it there, right?
No, they can apply, I mean,
But it's
so,
not a use in the A1.
yeah, I mean, they can apply, but we, as staff, we tell them, and staff meets every day with current property owners and future property owners. The basis for what we tell the public is what is this map right here. And so we continually say, look, we're not the decision maker, you know, that's up to them, but we're gonna tell you from a staff perspective, based on the comprehensive plan, we would recommend denial of that application. And typically, that's why you don't see a lot of those come before you, is because when we do tell people that, you know, it's, you know, the comprehensive plan says no. Typically, then they would know that it's like, okay, my legal basis, my public basis is not strong with this application. But again, getting back to what I talked about at the beginning of this, the number one goal and policy of Lincoln County is preservation of agricultural land uses. You know, I know I say this and everybody just kind of rolls their eyes at me, but every land use that I can do within the town of Fairview, I can do in Lincoln County. But the land use that I can't do in Fairview that I can do in Lincoln County is ag. So there has to be some type of preservation by the county to make sure that we preserve those land uses. Okay.
Commissioners, any thoughts while Mr. Brown's up there? I just have a couple of thoughts, but you go ahead, everyone.
I'm just trying to understand, so,
Welcome to your first day. That's
yeah, no kidding. So I guess like the day, like the only permitted place you could have it would be in the planned growth area?
Or in the rural service areas, yes.
Okay. Like what's the thought process there?
It's a commercial industrial use. We're guiding those towards the interstate exchanges.
Well, I guess with the planned growth, I understand like the rural service, but.
So when the county adopted zoning in 1971, it had a policy of preserving ag. And since 1971 till 2025, I forget what year it is, but 24, sorry, we didn't do that. We rezoned all in multiple places that weren't in compliance with the comprehensive plans at that time. In fact, we got sued on one, and then we did another comprehensive plan a year after that to correct that. But the idea is that there's a demand for growth in the area. Put it in the areas where it's planned growth. So the city of Harrisburg, the city of T, the city of Sioux Falls, all have land use plans that clearly identify those land uses. And one of the biggest challenges we had, at least from the planning commission perspective, is that they were continually concerned with premature development. Not that it was happening, but the cities were telling us we're never going to annex that. And I know Commissioner Scott, that was definitely was words that held in your mind all the time, because he would always ask the question, and city staffs would always say, well, we're never going to annex that. Well, that means that's a burden on the taxpayers of Lincoln County, because our sheriff has to drive through city limits to get to an island or a donut to take care of those public services. And fire departments are the same way as all types of our services. You know, we spend the majority of the time with nuisances in the county that we spend on are those properties that are directly adjacent to a municipality. Those are the biggest nuisance complaints we have in the county. So really it was really trying to, number one, I think it was, the number one goal was, and again, we hired a consultant, they did all the work, and they listened to all the public, and they're the ones that recommended these changes. But the number one thing to say is we recognize that we're gonna have demand for growth. We need to guide it, manage it in a way that everybody's gonna benefit from it and not be detrimental to what's going on. And if you asked me last year when we saw the first year of the implementation of the comprehensive plan, it was the best year we've ever had for growth and development in the county. It was consistent, it was promoted, it was beneficial to what we're trying to do. So, but again, I don't take credit for that, that's the public. This was a bottom-up plan. The public was the one that drafted this policy and put it together, so. So you asked me a question, that's what you're gonna get. So.
Yeah.
But the planning is, you know.
I think his question, Mr. Brown, and I think it would be good to explain for public and everything is, why would data centers be restricted to the planned growth area? We understand the rural services, but why would it be restricted to the planned growth? And I know you kind of explained it, but if you could just give us a few bullet points on why.
So if you notice, like the other land uses, agriculture, that coincides with A1 agricultural zoning district. The rural service area coincides with the C, I1, I2 zoning districts. The planned growth area, it's not a land use designated. It's really, we're looking at the underlying plans of the city. So the cities of Harrisburg, T, Sioux Falls, within their comprehensive plan, they've all identified areas where they want commercial industrial to be. So the data centers would be restricted to those areas. So it's not saying that that entire area is restricted to it. 99% of the land use of T is future residential. So those areas would not be even appropriate in the city of T. So to guess, appreciate the follow-up is that really what you would need to then do is look at the underlying plans of the cities to see where it's appropriate there. It's not appropriate in all those areas of the PINK, it's only appropriate in the areas where those cities have identified it within the PINK, so.
Was that under the comprehensive plan then, or?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Is that available somewhere for viewing, or?
Yep, I pulled this link is right off of the planning and zoning webpage, it's the first document on there.
Okay, and then that has the underlying, like, city future use, or?
No, those, you gotta go to the city for their other underlying uses.
Okay, so that'd be on the city. Okay. No, yeah. I just know, like, yeah, you see like a red area or whatever, and you just kind of wonder what the plan is, I guess,
Most of that don't have a plan. Their plan is inside there. They just know that it's working that way. And what this is doing is saying, if a data center does want to come, all entities involved with it, whether it's Harrisburg Growth District, T Growth District, and the county, as together say, T says, yeah, that's where we planned on putting industrial at the interstate there. Does it fit our plan of our growth? It does fit our plan. And then we kind of, Toby would just kind of follow along with the city because it is part of their growth district. They designate their growth district and tell us this is our planned growth. If it's outside of that, it puts it on Toby and then we say either no or we make it a planned development district, its own district. And that's in coordination with the other entities involved, am I correct?
Yeah. So essentially, so we don't screw up their future.
Right.
That's really what it is.
So really, Mr. Brown, currently then, we've got a process for data centers, is what you're saying.
You have a land use for it, correct?
Yes.
But I mean, if you've got a whole process, if somebody shows up in your office and wants to do it, you've got a process from start to finish on how to handle it. And it basically includes.
The ordinance does, yeah.
Yeah, and it basically includes plan development, which would require a public hearing, and we could add whatever conditions we want to it.
At least one planning commission, at least one board of commissioners. Again, state statute just says you have to have at least one. That doesn't mean we don't have multiple.
Right.
But in the case of the plan developments that we've done with Harrisburg, It was 8 months, and there was 4 or 5 public hearings.
Yeah, but, and then with the plan development, that leaves increasing flexibility and infinity nimbleness, I suppose, to be creative if things change in the future, correct?
Yeah, because we're trying to regulate technology.
I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. If we could write an ordinance today that isn't gonna mean anything
To be
5 years from
obsolete,
now.
obsolete before we adopt it.
But with the plan if we leave it as a plan development, we can continue to change as things change.
Yeah. And the benefit of a change of zone is it's a legislative act, so there's greater discretion for denial of a change of zone.
Right.
So in theory, it'd have to go through a city, maybe depending where it's at, and then to the planning commission, which we only recommend, then to the board of commissioners, and then it can get appealed, and then it can get, if they want to, they could do their signs and petitions and go to a vote too.
They could initiate a referendum of that decision, or they could file litigation against us.
So that'd be a long path to.
What happened with the solar deal at Lennox? I mean, that was a planned development.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah, we just dealt with it.
So it wouldn't be like a conditional use then, or
That'd be step 2.
that'd be step 2?
Yeah.
So first it'd be the zone change, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Then they have to go through the whole process again for the conditional use.
Conditional use, yep.
I like it.
I don't see any action to take.
I
you
don't
guys?
know how much more teeth we can have in the game.
Leave it as is
I-
if it's already, that sounds like it's, yeah.
We have a
fairly
use,
restricted.
we have as much control on it as we can take.
Right.
I mean, we can't deny people from wanting.
We have more control over it now, the way it
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hey, Toby, we were talking the other day, do you have a data center defined, like what that actually is?
If you're going to create a separate land use, we would have to define it.
Yeah.
But currently, it fits within the land use of the zoning ordinance.
We'd have to make a definition.
If you create a new land use, yes.
Oh. Well, what would we consider one right now then?
It falls under the categories of communication facilities, retail, warehousing.
Technically, the courthouse here is a data center. Because there's servers and there's all that up there.
Oh, yeah, you should probably define it then, I would say.
Again, if you're going to create a separate land use, then you would define it. But as today, no, you wouldn't define it. It is those land uses. But again, the most important thing that I would say, and I get there's the public concerns with the data centers. Number one is it's not allowed in the A1 agricultural district. That's a fact. And then number 2 is, can the county say no today if we received an application? Yes, you could.
Can the county say no if it's in the planned growth area?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see no need for a definition. Myself, I mean,
What
definition
would
just
that
puts
do?
us that we have a land use for it.
Sure.
You know, I don't,
If we leave it as is, we can't have a separate definition, then, right? I mean,
Well, if you create a separate land use, it's much like we're doing with solar, you're gonna have to start over with the
Yeah,
prescriptions to it.
that's what I'm saying.
And then the challenge with that is if you make the prescriptions, and they meet all those prescriptions, then you're in a less position to say that we lack the prescriptions. Does that make sense?
I like no definition, and we can, if do get an application in them areas where it would be permittable, plan development, we have control, and we have public input, we have options to set regulations, we have all the options in the world. I like how that's written, just like we're sitting now. I mean, how you have it here with,
Well, I mean, the challenge with the definition is that staff's researched it, there's not a consistent definition. And the challenge with it is like the state with the Bill of Rights, that's 10 megawatt. I mean, I'll defer to Jerry, but that's a sizable amount of megawatt. If we recall, the city of Lennox is 7 megawatts continuous. The solar farm they proposed was 4 megawatts, and that was 80 acres, you know? I mean, 10 megawatts, that's still a sizable thing that's gonna raise concerns with it.
And I got a follow-up. So what would be what are the current rules then for data centers in the planned area, planned growth area?
The regulations or what?
Yeah, just setbacks and whatever, all the different rules.
So no difference than other land uses, it would just, the plan development would allow us to create those own regulations. So we'd create them at the time that the districts could be created. So if we wanted a 1,000-foot setback or a 2-mile setback, you could create it within that regulation.
Okay.
One might have one might have this set of rules and the next plan development has this set. So there's no cookie cutter set that you start with when you deal with the.
Based on size and location and neighbors and trees.
Yeah, it's site specific.
Yep.
And then whatever we start with, then during the public hearing, we can add or subtract from at the time.
And then potentially you approve a plan development that they can't meet.
What's that?
You could potentially approve a plan development that they
Right.
don't meet.
Yeah. I honestly am not I'll just speak quick. I haven't been a fan of plan developments, though, in a lot of the ways they've been used, but this, to me personally, this makes the most sense. Just because of the flexibility and the nimbleness. I think that would be a perfect fit, to just leave it as is, so that we can change with it as it changes.
I know other areas around the country, I mean, they'll do something similar and they'll say all the generators must be like in the middle. You know, so then you got the buildings and the fence and everything blocking the side. I mean, that's just one example. I mean, we could, if we would ever even get that far, we can set all that. Yeah, so like 1,000-foot setback, generators must be upside down or something, I don't know, but.
Make them all pink. I mean, you could add that, goofy stuff, yeah.
Well, I think the benefit of the way the land use is today, all of them are gonna come before the public and the boards. If you create a separate land use, potentially with a threshold, some of them are gonna slip through intentionally, but they don't have to meet that threshold.
Yep.
Whether it be pods or whether it be some type of additional mitigation on the energy creation on the site or something like that. You potentially would create with a separate land use unintentionally that they're gonna slip through the cracks with that stuff, or benefit or be able to slip through the cracks with it. So,
all right,
not a policymaker either way. Again, it's up to the boards, but that's just kind of how the process works right now, or how it would work right now. Thank you.
So, excuse me, Mr. Brown. So the Board of Commissioners has referred this to us to come with something. Is it our recommendation? Do we do?
Well, you can certainly take some public input tonight too, if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, public's here. You stayed this long, right? We're talking. You want to hear everyone's thoughts? That's what Lincoln County's all about?
Sarah Stever, 46850, 276th Street. A question about the rural service area, which is a circle, it's not bounded by squares like you would typically have. Does that mean if someone has just a corner of it, that they can step outside of that? Or is it a hard and fast boundary within that circle? As someone who lives really close to a circle.
Yeah. Mr. Brown, do you have an answer for that? Is that like is it? I'm sorry, what was that?
So if a parcel of land intersects with that rural service circle, but also is outside of the rural service circle, what governs it? Which land use governs it?
A1A.
So I think the first thing to do can you switch it to the zoning mapping and we can look at what we already got? Because they aren't perfect circles. You're exactly right. Yeah. It's probably good to look at what we got and what we're trying to, keep it to.
Yours.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Do you have your layer, Toby, that you can put the?
No, I don't have the future land use, we don't have a layer on there, but,
No, but the current, what things are currently zoned.
oh, sure. That one's got borrow, but.
Yeah, that's always an interesting one right there.
So I'll be limited to here. As opposed to over here.
Okay, so the one on 276, which I'm super curious about.
So there to there.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Yep. So I think if I had to answer that, at least the way I would vote going forward would be, there is some land that's currently half mile either side, past those township roads. But I think what we've done, at least since I've been on the board and going forward, is that we'll contain those rezones or any of those types of things to within that interstate corridor, which is a half mile either side. Is kind of what we've been doing going forward. To answer your question. So yeah, it isn't a perfect circle, but the circle's more of an identification thing than it, I guess, draws out the squares.
All right, any more public comment or thoughts or talks? Yes.
Bethany Eric, 46747, 291st Street. Super happy that A1 Ag is not going to be allowed for data centers. Just wanted to comment that, so thank you. That's one less thing to worry about.
Yep. No, it's a good group setting and good education as well here, help educate each other and learn and whatnot. Well, not in a hurry, but if there's nothing else, I think the last thing we have is.
I have some
Yep.
questions,
Yeah,
yeah.
one, if the room's good with where we're at here.
Everybody good? Okay. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I've got a question for staff and maybe Mr. DeGroot as well. So my question is, and from what I can find in the ordinance, is that if an application's made, that there's no sunset or an application for a conditional use permit, is that, there's no defined time on when that would expire. And so my question is how do we handle that how would we handle that situation if it was to occur?
Well, I think you'd handle it just like you are now, I guess. If the planning commission wants to recommend a change in the ordinance, to have a sunset clause on a conditional use application, then you'd send that up to the Board of Commissioners, and if they agree, they can remand it back down for a public hearing. So I think it could be handled the exact same way as this is being handled.
Okay, but we don't have anything right now. Am I right about that?
You are right.
And so, if we didn't change anything, what's the current, climate? I mean, how is that handled? Or how would that be handled? Based on the ordinance the way it is?
I'm not sure. I'd have to research it and get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a blind spot.
Are you looking like at the data center side of it, or is that?
No, I'm just
in
general question.
In general?
Yeah, just a general question. I think that is, I think it's interesting that we don't have any date so you can apply for an application and it can just stay out there under those, under the rules that you applied under forever, is the way it looks to me. And you aren't subject to any changes in anything. Based on, you kind of timestamp here. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Once you set the conditions, yes, if things change, you have these conditions.
No, I'm saying you can apply, not have your hearing, and it can go on for infinity, the way the ordinance is right now.
I'm not too sure there ain't a timeline, but I'm not sure. I don't know that.
Mr. DeGroot just said there isn't, but, I just have, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we already had public input. Sure, we're all friendly. Come on in.
Well, I appreciate Commissioner Scott bringing this up because this is the exact situation we're in right now with the conditional use permit application that was supposed to be on the agenda last month that got postponed. I think the concern that Commissioner Scott is bringing up is like, when's the timeline where that has to be brought up? Based off of what Mr. DeGroot says, there's not really any specified timing. And I think we can all agree that we don't want that thing to just sit out there forever. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
And I'm not referencing any specific applications, I'm just curious on how, on how it would be handled in the future. And I just see that as a blind spot, I guess. Yeah. And I don't get a very.
Non-legal answer, yeah.
And I don't get very good answers.
So we receive an application, there's provision in the ordinance that, the real provision on kind of money-wise is that if we do a public hearing and schedule a public hearing, they don't get their money back. So typically, I'll say one is, there's no applications that have sat in there for a year. Our permit application software holds them to 180 days. So it's typically 180 days would be the timeline when somebody would have to withdraw, but no one's ever gotten to that point. Typically, they would just withdraw it. We ask for a letter of withdrawal, and they do withdraw it. There has been items that you've postponed as a board in the past that have never come back to you, though. And those applications would have been withdrawn by the applicant. So what I would tell you is that if any application has been postponed and moves forward, it has to go through the re-notification process again. So we'll notify the neighbors, we'll post the property, we'll put it on the agenda and go through that point in time. But at that time, up to 180 days, it's really the discretion of the applicant if they're comfortable with the application that they want to proceed with. It's really not control of ours, it's really in the hands of the applicant to make sure that it's an application that they want to proceed with.
So is that the answer to the question then? Is it 180 days? And
That's-
then they would have to reapply?
That's when we would deem the application to be expired, yes, per our software, per our processes.
So that's what you'll hold an application to, is 180 days?
Yeah, but they're never.
I understand it's been never. I'm just asking if,
Yeah.
if that's what you would do. And that's from the date the application was received?
Filed, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
That was the answer I've been looking for. Thank you.
Good answer.
Not saying it's the answer you want to hear, I'm just telling you that's what.
No, at least we got a number, and it isn't infinity. So.
All right, commission, let me double check all my notes here. but- I think we'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
We haven't done bylaws. We got one more.
We got
to go.
bylaws, yes.
Yes, yes, we do.
I know I was fit.
Guy, you-
Hopefully this is one thing we can adopt tonight.
good try, Gary.
So you were directed staff to, again, there's a joint board and there's a regular planning commission board, two separate bylaws. So we requested that we combine those bylaws. We just have one set of bylaws so people know, that, so that we don't get confused with what types of actions we're doing. So we took the joint bylaws, which again went through a full legal review with both sides, the city and the county. This review went through legal counsel review, this version too. The big change that I would say within these bylaws draft, again, is basing everything on, we don't change makeup, we don't change the meeting times, any of that kind of stuff. Really, I would say that the policy change would be within there is that the county commission representative would only vote in the event of a tie. So as you're aware, the state law requires that there be one of the Board of County Commissioners has to sit on the board. More than likely, that person's going to hear everything that we're doing twice. So typically then the request would be is then they would reserve their vote or their provision for when it gets up to that stage at that time. However, if there is a tie or if we don't have a full 3 on the approval, then that chair or that individual would have to vote on the items. So, okay, otherwise it's pretty much the same bylaws that we've been operating under the joint, so, okay.
All right, so with that, do we need to make a
if you desire.
move to send it to the Board of Commissioners?
No, it's adopted by you.
It's our bylaws. Adopted by
It's
us.
ours.
Oh, all
It's
right.
our bylaws.
It's our bylaws.
And I like it because then I don't have to do my disclaimer every time.
We don't have to put in the minutes.
There you go.
Well, I'd make a motion to approve for Betty.
I would second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Public input? Do we do public input?
I guess something I was looking at.
It brings me, Bethany, Eric, it brings me back to that discussion we had earlier between the notification process on something in the joint jurisdiction versus the Lincoln County only. Do the bylaws change the notification process at all, or is this just simply meeting protocol?
This is just.
This is just meeting protocol.
Meeting
Thank you. Much appreciated. Let's get out of here.
All kinds of happy news there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I was just reading through it, and I guess some things that I was looking at with it. I mean, maybe it makes sense to have, and I know we have a large, member, which it wouldn't really apply to, but I'd say like ones like myself, that we represent a district, that maybe like our terms are concurrent with our respective commissioners that appointed us. And then also maybe, I know we choose alternates, but maybe that's something that should be chosen by the commissioners as opposed to us. I don't know if anyone has had thoughts on those items.
Yeah. All open discussion. So alternates were at one time appointed by commissioners. At that time, they had just termed out, and now they're here to help.
And it's my understanding that the commissioners end up approving the alternates inevitably, don't they, or? I mean, we recommend, or,
So you're technically employees of the county. You're part-time employees of the county. So you did a background check, we pay you, we go through all that stuff. So the idea with the alternates is it was always if you fell off a term, then you stayed on as an alternate, and then if you expire your term off in this. So that's just really just cost savings, because if we had to appoint new people, we'd have to go through background checks, do all that kind of stuff, that go through that part of it. And the alignment is to traditionally with, you're appointed for 4 years. And so there are 3 of you are up. Next year would be Commissioner Jongling, Commissioner Scott, and Commissioner Sweeter. So it does pretty much coincide with the terms, yeah.
And I think we do, as the commission, if I remember right, I think in January when we concurred with the alternates at the commission meeting,
that's what I thought.
if I remember right.
Yep. Because we'll go forward with the who we elect as chair, vice chair, and alternates for approval by the Board of Commissioners.
And and the alternates aren't just random people. I mean, since I've been here, every alternate has been a former commission member, so they're.
8 years.
They're up to speed, yeah.
Monty was on the board for 8 years.
8 years.
And I would guess Commissioner Otten, if there was concerns with the alternates at the commissioner level,
Right.
you guys would address that, wouldn't
Yes.
you?
Okay.
As well as members, yeah. So they have, the Board of Commissioners is the final approval authority of appointments, so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks for explaining the process.
Yeah, good questions.
Yeah, good questions. Any other thoughts, Commissioner Sweeter?
I'm good. I say that that's a good plan to just have the commissioner vote in the case of a tie so she can
Yeah.
not have to always abstain.
Yep.
Agreed.
Because everybody goes, well, why didn't you vote? I'm not supposed to.
Yeah. It's in the bylaws now.
So, Mr. Chair, do you need a motion to approve the
I
change?
think we do have a motion in a second. I'm just
Oh.
waiting, I'm just making
you
sure
do.
that we,
I missed that. What I was paying attention to.
no, Commissioner Druso said 1, and Commissioner Sweeter said 2.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I just make sure we're all good with the conversation. If we're good, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Moser,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeter,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Hott,
Yes.
Commissioner
Get one last vote in, huh?
and Commissioner Jungling's a yes. All right. Well, now I'm kind of bummed. Now, do we, I'll take a motion to resign or adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn,
Retire
Scott.
for the night.
I'll move to adjourn, Scott.
Second, Sweeter.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Good meeting, everyone.